If you keep up in our study on Revelation, one of the things that you'll notice is that John's apocalypse is multisensory. We needn't only pay attention to what John sees, but also what he hears. And in fact, in Revelation chapter 10, you could argue what he tastes as well. One of the important patterns we notice in reading through Revelation is the way John hears something and then he sees something. What he sees is the content of what he's heard. Now, sometimes surprisingly so. In chapter 1, verse 10, John tells us, I heard behind me a loud voice like a trumpet. And then in verse 12 and 13, I turned around to see the voice that was speaking to me. And when I turned, I saw 7 golden lampstands. And among the lampstands was someone like a son of man, dressed in a robe reaching down to his feet, and with a golden sash around his chest. John hears and then sees what he's heard. In chapter 5, John tells us, then one of the elders said to me, do not weep. See, the Lion, the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. John hears something and then he sees something. Then I saw a lamb looking as if it had been slain, standing at the center of the throne, encircled by the 4 living creatures and the elders. The lamb had 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent out into all the earth. Now, we'll unpack this on another occasion. I just wanted to draw your attention to the pattern. What he heard and what he saw are one and the same. The lion and the lamb, the lion is the lamb, which conquered, though it was slain. You can even find the pattern in Revelation 7. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed, 144,000 from all the tribes of Israel. Notice, though, he never sees the 144,000, does he? He's only heard. John goes on to tell us, after this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, and people and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. They were wearing white robes and were holding palm branches in their hands. That's fun, right? Now let's ask a question. Why does John do this? Why does he sometimes present one picture or one concept through a sound or spoken word and follow that with a sometimes very different vision than what the hearing would kind of conjure in our minds? Let's go back to the first passage from Revelation 1, verse 10. Remember what John heard? A voice like a trumpet, right? Is John just being descriptive? Does he just have a thing for brass imagery? No. It goes back to Exodus 19. On the morning of the 3rd day, there was thunder and lightning with a thick cloud over the mountain and a very loud trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp trembled. It continues in verse 19, as the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder, Moses spoke and the voice of God answered him. So when John hears a voice like a trumpet, knowing his Bible better than you or I do, what does he expect? God. But that's not what he sees. Or better yet, God is exactly who he sees, but not the way that we would expect to see God. It's no surprise that he witnesses golden lampstands. Lampstands were traditionally found in the house of the Lord. The bigger surprise is seeing one like a son of man at the center. What John is doing with sound and sight is opening his listeners and us to the reality of who Jesus is. And he is greater and continues to be greater than we've ever imagined. Now, was he a humble first century Jew? Absolutely he was. But this vision of John's, which he refers in the opening as the testimony of Jesus, is intended to show us there is so much more. Have a blessed week.